Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Africa Show. We have another interesting podcast here today. Um, as you all know, Nigeria is having its election on the 25th of February. Nigeria is Africa's most populous nation, oil rich, culturally rich, entertainment, you name it. It's the Africa's giant, and it's going to have a very decisive election that's going to happen within the next few days. So to navigate through all things that are happening, what the most important things that are going on, we have a special guest here, Mr. Desmond, who's here to join us here on the podcast, and we are very, very happy and very glad that you're here to join us.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And of course, almost before I forget, we have Mr. Zenge Simakoloye. I'm sorry, I'm a bit rusty, Zenge. I haven't done this in quite a while. I'll do better. How you doing, man?
Wow. You've been saying, how am I doing? He has been off for 2 episodes and then just arrives. I'm good. I'm good. The big election is coming on, and as Nathan said, most populous country in Africa. If you know an African, it's probably a Nigerian. So this is a very critical election.
It is.
So we just want to ask, basically, for those that don't know, how's this election going to work? Who's going to be voted for, and what do you need to win? Like, it's a presidential election. The one so for our listeners here, the 25th of February is the presidential one, and other federal elections, House of Representatives and Senate. So just tell us, for the winners, what does one need to win a Nigerian election?
Well, first thing you need is a lot of money. But take that away, I think one of the things that normally what you believe that you need to win an election in Nigeria is that you need to have what they call structure, right? And structure is basically having the party structures available in the different regions of the country in order to reach the out-of-reach population, right? So this is very, very crucial, right? This is why it's much easier. It's more difficult for new parties to make any in-ground in Nigerian politics because the old parties have established themselves over years and years. They have the money. They have the backing of the big political godfathers. So.
And that's another interesting one, but we'll go into it later. Yeah, the political godfathers.
Essentially, you need a lot of money. You need structure. You need to have basically a good structural base, and most of the time, you need to have the power, what they call power of incumbency, right? But I think what have made this current election different from what we have seen is that normally we think of elections between the two political parties, APC and PDP. Right, and basically these parties have made inroad because of the structure that they have, and then the ability to have the war shares to fund these elections, because elections in Nigeria are very expensive. But now we have
the APC is the All Progressive.
I was gonna ask him to clarify.
People's Congress.
Yeah, so the APC is the National People's Congress. So the APC is the party in power right now, and the PDP is the opposition party, so the People Democratic Party. The PDP was President Goodluck Jonathan's party when he lost to Muhammadu Buhari in 2015. So they were in the opposition, and now they are the incumbent party, and then the PDP are the opposition party. And essentially, we see it as a two-horse race between the PDP and the APC because those are the established parties in the region. But now the elections with the groundbreaking of Peter Obi now means that this election is actually different, which makes it more
three-horse race.
Wait, who's Peter Obi?
So Peter Obi is the candidate of the Labour Party.
Okay. So is it a relatively new party, or?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a new party. It's a party it's just been there for a while, but it wasn't an established party when you think about the PDP and the APC, right?
Okay.
We have over 19 parties in the country, 19 political parties, and these parties have been there for a long time, right? But they're just not significant enough to matter, right? But what makes this very interesting was that Peter Obi he ran in the previous election with the PDP, under the PDP umbrella, as the vice president of Atiku Abubakar, who is the flag bearer of the PDP for this upcoming election, right? So he ran with him as his vice president in the previous election. They both lost. But he also, and then he decided to campaign when he decided that was going to run for president. And then he decided to campaign on the
So
PDP.
Peter Obi wanted to take over the APC in this, the PDP in this election and stand as the main opposition candidate.
Yes, he was.
When that didn't happen, he decided to create his own and sort of fired it up.
Yeah, and then the whole politics of why it didn't happen, that is like a story for another day. But basically, how the elections happen is that the party delegates select who's going to represent the party, right? But before the party convention, he knew he was not going to win the party nomination. So he basically decamped from PDP and went to Labour Party.
And then this Labour Party was like this dormant party, and then he just...
Exactly, right. So this is dormant party, but he has been able to mobilize the young voters. The young voters, the people like, and the people, must be a lot of people in the southeast regions that
Peter Obi is from the Anambra state, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the southeast region, and that's the region that is yet to produce a president actually in Nigeria. So there was this conversation of equity in the country, this, because we have this idea that the presidential power should rotate among the different regions, and since we had a president from the north, it was argued that next presidency should come from the south, right? So the APC party, which is the incumbent party, agreed to that. So they basically zoned the party tickets to the south, which resulted in Bola
Tinubu, right?
winning the election. So we won the party convention. But the PDP argued that they are not the party in power, so they cannot zone what they don't have, right? That also led infighting in the PDP.
Now let's take a step back for a moment. So you have the All Progressive Congress, the ruling party, fielding Bola Tinubu. And then you have the main opposition with Atiku Abubakar from the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. Now these are the two traditional parties. However, this is where the plot twist comes in. Because the PDP opposition selected Atiku, him being a northerner meant that if he wins, a northerner will succeed a northerner, cueing Atiku's former running mate Peter Obi from the southern state of Anambra, who broke away. Now, north-south, what does that matter? To understand this, we have to understand that Nigeria has a thing called zoning and power rotation. This is a convention which started following the Biafra Civil War in the late 1960s and fully practiced democratically since 1999. This is an agreement that the presidency must alternate from north to south and that the vice president must not be from the same region as the president. The idea behind this is the power sharing and avoiding ethnic regionalism that contributed to the Biafra War.
G5 governors, so the G5 governors, so like governors like Wike and four other governors that basically were against Atiku Abubakar winning the presidential, so the PDP's ticket, and they were basically wanting to get some guarantees, some assurances, that special positions will be given to people from the south. So that's a whole different conversation again. But basically, what resulted was that Peter Obi felt he couldn't make any. So if he knew he couldn't win the PDP ticket, and he knew that basically if he wanted to have a shot at running for presidency, then he has to leave the party. So he decamped and went to the Labour Party.
Yeah. So
that's a bit of a wild one, isn't it? Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. So just to be clear, so who are so now before we had two main parties, the PDP and the APC.
Yes.
Now there's this new challenger that's come on the scene, and so who are the main candidates for each party again? Just to be clear?
So we say we'll call the four main candidates now. So the four main candidates.
Okay.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu for APC. He's from the southwest. He was a former governor of Lagos State in the 90s. 2 times governor. He's like a big political figurehead. Then we have Atiku Abubakar for PDP.
Lagos is the most populous state, right? Or the
Yes.
most, yeah.
Yes. And then so you have Atiku Abubakar from PDP. He was the vice president under Olusegun Obasanjo. When Obasanjo was president, he was his vice president, a two-term vice president. Then you have Peter Obi, that was the former governor of Anambra State, a two-time governor as well, right? And then he also ran as the vice president, so vice presidential candidate for Atiku Abubakar under the PDP. And then you have Rabiu Kwankwaso. Kwankwaso itself was a two-time governor of Kano State, and he's running for the NNPP. Kwankwaso himself is a special character because he has a strong support base in the north, right? So although he's not seen
He's from Kano State, right?
Yeah. And although he's not seen as like one of the major contenders, he has the ability to influence the votes in the sense that he has a strong support base in the north, in state like Kano, for example, which is like one of like if you want to win a presidential election in Nigeria, you have to win. These are one of the states you have to win, right?
Yeah.
He has a strong support base there. And it's interesting because now there's still no idea. There's still speculation on what he's going to do. There's an assumption that a day to election or a few days to the election, probably sometime next week, he might actually decamp. He might withdraw himself from the race and basically ask his supporters to vote for maybe Bola Ahmed Tinubu or Atiku Abubakar. That is yet to be seen. But there have been negotiations.
To break the election.
Yes, exactly. There have been negotiations going on around that time.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's before the election. Normally, the third horse or the third candidate normally waits until there's the second round. So yeah, just give us a picture of the layers in which are needed. Nigeria has a 2-round system, right? In terms of voting. So just give us an understanding of the voting system and what the presidential candidates need, what thresholds presidential candidates need.
So this is actually a very interesting one now, because this is the first time where we're having 3 major political contenders, like since our new democracy, like in 1999, and normally what you need is you need the popular votes, so you need to have the popular votes. But you also need to win at least 25% of the votes from 25 states. So you need to have at least 25% from 25 states in the country. Right? So those are the 2 criteria a presidential candidate needs to win the election. Right? And now there have been discussions where, for example, someone like Peter Obi is highly favored. He's like seen as one of the front runners. There is a possibility that he could win the popular votes. But there were conversations if he could actually win 25% of the votes in 25 states, because a lot of the states are controlled. In the south is controlled by the APC, and the north controlled by the APC, and split between PDP, and then in the south. So you could see him making inroads in the southeast, in the south.
Yeah,
minimal in the southwest, because Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's from that region. He's a big powerhouse there. And you see maybe in the middle belt area, Peter Obi might do well. In the north, it's yet to be seen where his votes come from. So there's this assumption that he could win the popular vote, but he might actually not have the 25% needed.
Wow. And so if you don't if you don't have the popular vote, then that's it for you. Like if you get the popular vote, you still need the extra 25. So if you only have the popular vote, it's over for you.
So if you only have the popular votes, but you don't win the 25%, then you can be the third winner, right? But the problem though is if he wins the popular vote and if someone else wins the 25%, gets 25% from 25 states, as required by the Constitution, but the person does not have a popular vote, that person is not still the president.
So you need both.
That.
Yeah.
So
ultimately, something's gonna give. So
yeah.
So there's probably a 2-round.
Exactly. So there's already a conversation about a potential runoff, because we see the votes being splitted, between Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar, and then you see Peter Obi consolidating in the southeast, in the south, maybe somewhere in the middle belt. So there's a question is that actually none of them might actually be able to win the 25% needed.
So that's it for the first part of our episode on the 2023 Nigerian election, coming on February the 25th, with our very special guest Desmond Okumbor, a PhD candidate and Oxford SDG Research Fellow. In this episode, we covered the rules of the game as well as the frontrunners. The next episodes, we're going to be covering the youth vote, the fitness of leaders, and then the episode after that, we're going to cover the economy, and the last episode, we're going to cover foreign policy. Thank you for listening. Leave us a rating, follow us on all our socials. Most of all, let us know what you think.